Hi everyone, it's Hector from CochiseCountyVoice. Special guest today in my kitchen is Vice Mayor for a couple of days.
For a couple more days.
For a couple more days, Levi Johnson. You guys may be familiar, of course. He has served already for the city of Benson, and so he will be running for mayor in this particular race. So I want you guys to have a sense of what his campaign is about and how it went for him in his last tenure. So introduce yourself again and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so as being Levi Johnson myself, I moved to Benson about 8 years ago. There was a job opening in Fort Huachuca. I had spent too much time in Germany, so they said you gotta go find somewhere else to work. So I found the job down there in Sierra Vista. I would say it's all history now. I took on a community service project, the Benson AYSO. I do that with all my awesome board members. We try to make an awesome program for the kids here in Benson and the surrounding areas. To me, it would be qualifications. What qualifies you as a mayor? And so my biggest thing is, I go out to get that education to help understand what we're looking at as far as city finances or city topics in general. So I went and got my MBA. I did my understudy as a human resources, so that has truly helped me on the personnel aspect of the city and how we grow the personnel inside that to help with services. I have bachelor's in science and logistics management. I'm certified through the Army as a master logistics specialist, and I hold a certificate in Lean Six Sigma Greenbelt. So that's me. I'm dedicated to the city. I tell people the youth is our next generation to help grow the city, and so with that, I spend a lot of time helping grow the youth. You see me in a lot of youth areas. My council check itself, I go to help support kids for the school project. So when they need money for their sports, people send me text messages, or I see something on Facebook that says, hey, you have support so-and-so. And so I'll send money that way, and that comes out of my council check to help support that. I mean, it's not my money, it's the city's money. It's your money. So I help give that back to the city.
So, yeah, and so you repeated that before, so we're not going to dwell too much, on that. You're obviously qualified because you've actually held that office, or a council office, and so folks have chosen you to perform that job. I'm glad to hear of the qualifications. The job itself, of the council and mayor, and of course you're specifically for the mayor, has two aspects to it. One is indeed running a business style situation, right? Not exactly like a business, but very similar. And that you have to keep track of bottom lines. You have to be, like you say, very attention to those details of where the money's going, where it comes from, and then being able to make plans for the future. And the other part of the job is that you're the liaison between the people of the town and the city works. There's really between you, if you're mayor, between the mayor and the council, then the other side, of course, is the city manager, and then all of the city structure. And so you represent all of the people, and that's a big part of the job. And the mix of the two, I think, is what's going to make hopefully a good mayor. And so everyone wants to run, I think, for the betterment of that. I can't imagine anyone not running, for wanting to improve. And so to me, it's always been in the details of how, how do you do that? When I've spoken to the last couple of candidates, I've mentioned this. And look, when you're an incumbent, when you've already been in office for no matter how long, whether it's a year, 2 years, or in the case of Mr. King, in there for a decade or more. You have a record. You're running on that record now. In folks that are challengers that have not been in office before, they have a little bit of a luxury there that they can dream up of super cool plans of what they'd like to do, but the big challenge is implementation. I think, and of course the record of someone who's been in office already is, unfortunately, you can't get away from it, right?
Yeah.
You're a body of five, and so if there's a failure, it's applied to everyone in many ways, and so that's so let's talk a little bit about where where the city is right now. I always like to tell people that the town is not broke, and it's not actually from technical purposes, it's not being misrun, or there is no evidence of such a thing. That I go fairly regular. I'm not saying that I'm a wonk or a nerd for those council meetings, but I go to a lot of them. From what I can see, the council is not running the city into the ground. And Megan Moreno, the finance director, is not. Seems to have a handle of those numbers, and so if people want to know where we're at, I think people can easily find out. So once again, if it's not being poorly run or somebody's not doing bad things, where do you think our city is? Tell us financially where we're at. So tell me how the city is doing, how you feel about it, and tell people how it was the last couple of years that you.
So. The city is doing great on finances. At the surface, I don't think you can't really tell that, only because what's sitting in the savings accounts aren't really projected outwards towards the public. What the public sees is there's a negative $400,000 in the report, and I mean, when you see red, you automatically think red's a bad thing. And I mean, in our instance. For these past couple of years, red doesn't necessarily mean bad. It's just the city now has a nice cushion, and we are now taking care of those projects that need to be done. So, for instance, like last year, we did chip sealing. That was money added to the budget to start that. Some can say, well, that wasn't the best use of funds. I mean, I'm sorry, but I can kind of agree to that, because chip sealing only works for a little bit. But in this budget, I fought with for everybody, because they're like, well, we need the roads repaired. 100% we need these roads repaired. So, working with the city manager, we need to start doing something about these roads, actually surfacing them and getting repaved. And so in this budget, hopefully that gets approved, is $500,000 to repave Ocotillo. So, I mean, that's just the start. We're improving the infrastructure of the gas, the water. Those are areas that still, I mean, they've been in the background, on the back burner. Those are things that people really don't think about. That when they see something, they think of, well, all these needs to go to the roads. And if we focus on one topic,
so you're saying that you're making that progress. I think, and you're right, I don't think people see that, or maybe we're not getting that point across, that work is being done. Nobody checks up to see if, gas line improvements are being done, to be honest with you. Who would know that, right? But those things have to be happening in the background. Now, those are all budgeted things, so I think if people wanted to know where that money was coming from and how it was being spent, they can find out, where the money is going. So we had a fairly successful year. I think we did okay with roads. I think there were roads that were maintained and some fixed. And then also we had a big improvement in our parks,
yes.
Parks and recreation. So and those were ongoing projects, and that's another thing that I think sometimes the messaging is difficult to relay, and that some of these strategies take a long time. It sometimes beyond the life of a council person,
yep.
Or a mayor for sure. By the way, that's kind of a very, very small amount of time really to
yep.
kind of get a lot of stuff done, and you're just getting in there before you have to start campaigning again. But So that's stuff that takes a little bit longer. And right now, this was a great meeting last month. It was on the 5-year general plan, and that kind of gives, I wish, and I may do an article on that, because I hope people, you know, had a chance to listen to that at least, because there were some great discussions there. With, you know, the fire department was talked about, and of course roads as well. And then also a little bit about the money. I know, I think that we're in the red a little bit more than 500,000. It was a lot. But you know what, you're right, because we can't hang on those numbers on the month to month, because some of these things get paid off on 2 months down the road, and then it evens out. We are getting close to the end of the fiscal year, so it was interesting to see that number there. But those numbers are from April, I think. Right. So there's still a few months for those things to kind of